This is my first time having 3 people at once, so this is going to be fun.
The dynamic.
Yeah.
Charlie's angel.
Are there dramas or anything like that? Because you would think, yeah, working with so many women, there would be some sort of something.
No, our boss, Peggy, does a really good job, I think, when she's interviewing. And so she's done an excellent job at selecting all of us because we're all pretty laid back. You know, we're not very dramatic, and we all like to help.
But sometimes some of us say, hey, you know, I really need a furnishing project. I'm tired of building right now. Or some of us like, oh my God, all I'm doing is furniture. I really want to build.
Yes.
So we kind of talk to see, hey,
good.
you know,
Yeah.
like, you know, what are y'all looking for? And we kind of find what we feel the best fit for that prospective client is.
So when it comes to inspiration and creativity for you guys, how do you keep your inspiration?
When it comes to social media, I'm so busy that I just, you know, I'm hardly ever looking on Instagram or anything, and I kind of operate in the moment, which so far has, you know, done me well.
Even looking at this bathroom, it looks very like Renaissance-esque
Yes,
style.
Yes. The client loves shiny things. And so we definitely wanted to include like the light fixtures, the handles, mirrors to bring in some of that gold and brass to give that shine.
Hello everyone, my name is Nadine and this is Design Discussions with Nadine, and today we have 3 lovely special guests. We have Amy, Ashton, and Jessica from By Design Interiors. Thank you ladies for coming to talk to me.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
They're all very talented interior designers, and today we're going to talk about all things interior design and highlight some of their very special projects. So thank you again for joining me. This is going to be a fun conversation. This is my first time having 3 people at once, so this is going to be fun.
The dynamic.
Yeah.
Charlie's angel.
Charlie's angel.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
That's it. 3 ladies talking about design. That is very fun. So the first thing I want to talk about is your design process. So from concept to completion, kind of give the viewers a little bit of an idea on how you guys do things, and if somebody wanted to hire you, what is kind of the process that you go through to complete their project?
I guess I'll start first.
Yeah.
So they would contact By Design, you know, through our different social media things with either on our website. They can contact us through Instagram, Facebook. They can call us, and so Adriana or somebody else, if they answer the phone, they would say, you know, kind of get some information, you know, what are you exactly looking for? Are you remodeling? Are you building? Do you just need furniture? There's so many, you know, what kind of are you needing from the designer at this point? And then we would, you know, gather some information. Then of course, they would run it by all the designers to see, you know, this is where it's located. Do you have availability to meet the client? Are you, you know, swamped? Is this something you can do? And we kind of find the best fit, you know, to see who can take on that project.
And then do you also look at like the design style that possibly the customer wants, and then kind of place it with whoever you think it fits there, or
It
how do you
doesn't
guys...
determine who gets it, but sometimes,
Maybe location sometimes.
Yeah, location is
Because
a
we
big
all live in different parts of the city. So I live more in town. So a lot of times if it's an in-town project, I'll kind of take those. Just because it's a little bit more flexible, you know, with Houston traffic. If a client wants to meet with you at 9 in the morning and you live all the way in Conroe, that's really hard sometimes to get
there.
downtown, you know, and so we, you know, just try to see what is the best fit kind of location, you know, exactly what the project is. You know, sometimes some of us say, hey, you know, I really need a furnishing project. I'm tired of building right now. Or some of us like, oh my God, all I'm doing is furniture. I really want to build. So we kind of talk to see, hey,
good.
you know,
Yeah.
like, you know, what are y'all looking for? And we kind of find what we feel the best fit for that prospective client is. Yeah.
Good. So you guys kind of work together as a team to see who's going to be the best fit for that particular
It's
project.
interesting because we all work on our individual projects, but we still come together as a team, like on everything about resources, vendors, talking about the projects, comparing ideas. So, yeah. So, yeah. A lot. Comparing notes, on, hey, I had this issue. What do you suggest, or what did you have to do, or whatever. So it's really nice that even though we're working on separate projects, we can all feel comfortable to talk about, what's going on in all of our ideas and stuff.
And that's really good to make for a successful firm, right? Or in any business, working as a team.
Yes.
I think that's very important to make sure everybody's happy and
especially when
run
you have
smoothly.
10 women,
Yeah.
I know it's, some people might not believe me, but we all get along very well.
That was going to be my next question. And as far as how many people are on your team, and then, are there dramas or anything like that? Because you would think, working with so many women, there would be some sort of something
So
happening.
our boss, Peggy, does a really good job, I think, when she's interviewing prospectful designers. And she can gauge us really well in our personalities. And so she's done an excellent job at selecting all of us because we're all pretty laid back. We're not very dramatic. And we all like to help, right? We're all very helpful. Like I can go to Amy or Ashton or any of the other designers in the office. Like I said, we're not always there, so it's a lot of texting or calling. Hey, have you used this vendor? What did you think? I'm thinking about using them on this project, and so
Contractors.
yes.
A lot.
So we work really well together, which is great.
And then speaking of texting and technology and all that stuff, the next thing I want to touch on is the software tools that you guys use. And I think those are probably very important for you guys, right? So let's go through a little bit of the use of the tech in the design process, how it helps you, what do you use, and do you think it's a very helpful tool for you?
I maybe use the most tech, do I? Or maybe you.
Yeah.
AutoCAD, and I think we all kind of do our own thing.
Software.
There's no standard for the office at all. So AutoCAD for drawings, and I use SketchUp. I'm a very visual person. Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, that's all me because I kind of have a background in graphic design also. And I find my clients, a lot of times they're unable to visualize well, so I'll use Photoshop or throw a 3D together or anything like that to kind of help facilitate the process in visualizing. So
that's great because as far as visualizing it, that's very hard for people when they're picking things, and there's a lot of people out there that don't use those or provide any renderings or anything for people. At least in the construction side of it, I've seen lots of situations where there's nothing given to the client, and because of course they never used a designer or or a company that provided those, and then they were either very unhappy with the end result, or I didn't realize it was going to look like that, or mistakes happen. So I think that too is a great tool to make sure that, hey, this is what you're getting, this is the dimensions of things, and all of that is very useful for that.
Especially if you're doing any type of construction. When it comes to building or remodeling, most when you're doing a new build, of course they've had an architect, but 90% of the time the plans are going to change. And we're very involved in that because, architects are creative people, and they can do some amazing things. But at the end of the day, it has to work for our client and what they need in the home. So sometimes we have to change a little bit of, I don't think that's going to work for their lifestyle and what they're needing, and kind of tweak it. So we're involved, from the get-go with plans. And even though they provide plans, most of the time we'll do AutoCAD drawings, especially like on cabinetry, elevations showing like what the kitchen layout could look like and things like that. And it just gives the client a comfort knowing that they're not going to walk in and be surprised. They know going in, okay, this is what is going to happen. Let's get it going.
And sizing,
yes,
like on cabinetry, is very important.
And organization. We all work differently. I've never designed the same kitchen twice ever. Same layout, same storage. Everybody works differently in their kitchen, how they cook, how they put things. So it's always different, you know, and so I think it's key to get it exactly to what the client is wanting. Yeah. That's good. Yeah.
Now I want to go through some of y'all's projects because you have some beautiful work here. Okay.
Thank
so
you.
I'm going to pull it up here and let's first talk about, let's do Amy first. Okay, and so we're going to talk about this lovely bathroom here and kind of go through where this was, how long did it take you to do this, so give us a little bit of information on.
That project was in the Woodlands. It was a young couple with three small children. One was a baby, and the next one was 2 and maybe 4. They were kind of stair-steppers. And Pkwy actually passed that client on to me. She was like overloaded. And it was kind of interesting. The client came in the first time I met the wife, and she was like, we like plain. I just want plain. I don't want anything trendy or that's going to go out of style. I want it easy to clean, very functional. And she's like, I know you don't want to hear plain, bland.
We would use the word timeless on that, right?
Right. I was trying to throw timeless.
Classic.
Yeah, classic.
She's like, don't really care for color. And so I kind of coaxed her throughout the process. And it was very easy to work with her because I was a little, thrown off a bit and after the first meeting. But her and her husband, and he had equal input as well, which sometimes you get no input, and then sometimes you get a lot of input from both. But they were kind of equal. And so I kind of gave her a black and white and gray palette, which catered to her. She didn't want color. She didn't. But I remember persuading her with the metallics and the contrast with the black finishes. To give it some interest in timelessness.
And it is beautiful.
And keep it simple.
It's beautiful because it is very simple and the black and white, but then the accent pieces, the light fixture really adds a little something to it, but keeps it still kind of nice and in the direction that she wanted to go. But it's still a beautiful bathroom. Okay, Ashton, so let's move on to you and talk about this project here. So this home in general is absolutely beautiful. Where was this located? And then talk about the idea behind this design. And I can't wait to show the people's befores and afters of this one because it's amazing.
Yes, and I think people always love to really see that before and after. It just has an effect because you're like, wow, it inspires people to be like, what I can do. And so that home was located in the Woodlands, off the golf course. And the goal with this project was it had such a beautiful style of architecture. I wanted to keep that intact, but definitely update it. So where there were some things with the moldings that gave it character that I didn't want to take away. And so, but the client and her husband, they were a little bit more transitional. And so we wanted the home to, of course, reflect that as well. So for instance, in the bathroom, we needed to make it more functional. They had a drop-in tub that just was an eyesore when you walked in. So we took that out and we did the floating tub. And it just gives that nice clean openness. It doesn't feel like you walk in and you're like, oh my God. And half the time people injure themselves trying to step up into those tubs anyways. We in that shot you can't really see, but we totally redid the shower. The shower felt like a cave, literally like a cave. It was dark brown. And so it literally, when you were in there, you're like, oh my gosh. So we opened it up and we brought color in. The house was very beige.
And very, like, even looking at this bathroom, it looks very, like, Renaissance-esque
yes,
style.
Yes, the client loves shiny things. And so we definitely wanted to include, like, the light fixtures, the handles, mirrors to bring in some of that gold and brass to give that shine, and then to pop it with the color of the blue. The clients love blue, and they love all shades of blue. So I'm always excited where we get to bring in some color.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this house has some color.
Yeah.
But it's done to where it has color, but it's not like you walk in, you're like, oh my God, it's so busy. It like distracts
Overpowering.
you. It's done in the right accent walls and right areas, to where in the main area it's all connected with one color, but your separate areas kind of have your accents.
And I was just looking at this. I think this is a seating room with a.
Yes, that's their family room. Yes.
And that is really nice too. Just the colors in there, just adding it there behind the bookcase. That's lovely.
Yes, and that had been just one big niche that they had kept a TV armoire in there. And of course, that housed a 40-inch TV.
Yeah.
And everybody has to have their humongous TV
yeah.
screen. So we moved the TV location to the other wall. I said, that would be a really cool artistic niche. So we added the shelves and put some decor in there, and it's just something different, that when you're walking, you're like, oh my God, that's really cool. I didn't think of that, So my client says every time somebody comes in, they're like, oh my God, that's such a cool idea. And so I think it turned out well.
It's beautiful. And last note, I love the chandelier in the entryway. It looks like icicles almost. That's beautiful.
Yes, that fixture took about 6 hours to put together. We had to lift it up on and off a crane. That the client actually has a switch. So if they ever need to clean it, they push the button, it comes down, and you can clean it. Otherwise, I don't want anybody on a ladder again trying to mess with that. We had to individually hang all the crystals. And so it took some time, but it's worth it.
Yeah, it's definitely a showstopper when you walk into
I love it. I
entryway.
think it's really
beautiful.
cool. Yeah.
All right, so Jessica, let's talk about this amazing projects that you did here. And this is a restaurant in Morocco.
Yes. So the client is actually located in Houston. They have family members that run the actual restaurant in Morocco. But it was great because we could collaborate here in Houston with the client. So obviously in Morocco, they don't have Tex-Mex. So it was this Tex-Mex cafe concept that he wanted to bring to Morocco. And so a lot of bold jewel tone colors, wanting to incorporate, some textures with the stones and the distressed wood, just to once again bring in that Tex-Mex feel. And then we accented with like some cowboy hats. So it was really fun.
Yeah, I saw that in one of the photos. Really cute. I mean, and the color palette is really beautiful too. It's amazing. And then what was your other inspiration behind this? The design and the colors.
Yeah. So the cafe was actually a pretty large space. So they started off with an original smaller space, and they ended up buying the space next door and kind of opened up that whole area. So one side is like a bakery side of the cafe with the bar, and they have some outside seating. And then to the right is a larger seating spaces with some banquettes. And they love to sing in Morocco and do karaoke. And so that was like a huge request from the client. Like they needed a stage area because they have like people come and sing and perform there like every weekend. And he sent me videos, and like people are like waiting outside to get in. They're dancing outside because of the music. They like to have a good time there.
That's fun.
So yeah, definitely one of the requirements was a huge stage area for live performances.
That's a lot of fun. And if anybody else knows anything about Morocco, how much we love Zalige tiles, I'm sure you guys worked with those many times.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite. Actually, I had a client yesterday that we took shopping, and we looked at some Zalige tiles. I'm like, beautiful. So that's another great part about Morocco. I love those tiles. They're just amazing. So when it comes to inspiration and creativity for you guys, how do you keep your inspiration? How do you bring a fresh take on designs and how they change over time? Because they do. How do you feel like you do that for
I'm
yourself?
a big Instagrammer, so I follow a lot of designers all over the world. Really, I pull a lot from the UK and their designers there. I find their interests are more forward than ours here and kind of what they're thinking over there. So I like to follow a lot of UK designers, but just on Instagram and of course, you know, magazines that we see. But every client is different. I mean, they all want something different or new. So it's kind of really just based on their wants and needs and then kind of going from there.
I'm a little opposite. When it comes to social media, I'm so busy that I just, you know, I'm hardly ever looking on Instagram or anything. And I kind of operate in the moment, which so far has, you know, done me well. And I just really try to get into my client's head and just put myself out there where in looking, and I'll just come across that perfect thing that'll be perfect for them. And it's different with each client. And I'm big on like art and trying to push them in some way or another, some aspect of being bold in their room, so that they feel like they got their money's worth as far as there's something that they wouldn't have thought of. And so that's kind of my take on it.
And then how do you feel about, speaking of different designs and things like that, your ability to be able to work with different design styles and aesthetics? How do you as designers handle that? Because like you said, everybody's design is different and you have to work with a bunch of different designs. I'm sure as an interior designer, there's probably a certain style that you gravitate towards. But how do you handle making a client happy when there's so many design styles that you have to work with every day?
So usually in a project, the clients always will have something they want to incorporate into the project. Like this, you know, I had one client who wanted to incorporate a lot of art pieces. They were an art collector, so they really wanted to showcase that. So our goal was to create the house and a canvas for all those art pieces. And so when they have like a priority that they want to work around, that kind of steers us in a path to make sure we're incorporating what they want, but to also meet them halfway and to bring our ideas. Well, that's great, we can do that, but I think we could do it like this, or we could put that here, and to kind of, you know, like I said, meet them, you know, 50-50, to make sure that they're comfortable. At the end of the day, they're going to be living in this space. So they need to be happy, they need to be comfortable, but they're also, you know, spending a lot of money on the project. So when somebody walks in, it needs to look like, you know, this was done with, you know, great taste and stuff like that.
An intention.
Yes,
right?
yes, correct.
I'm sure that's hard when you're dealing with something like that where you have so many pieces. You want to place things, right, in a way where it's intentional and it doesn't kind of look
Yes.
put there.
Yes.
That has to be hard to do.
And it was interesting. I had to work with the client's good friend who was, you know, their art dealer. So we had some different thoughts on where the pieces should go. It took a whole day for us to figure out, because that's how much they had in this house. But we came to an agreement.
That's right.
After many of hours walking around the house, we finally decided where the pieces, and they look perfect now. Yeah,
That's good.
yeah.
How about you, Jessica? Do you have an opinion on that as far as working with different aesthetics, and how do you handle that as a designer?
Yeah, I always get so excited with each new project, and I love that they're all so different. But Ashton's right, you know, our main focus is our client. This is their home. They have a very emotional connection to the space. So we want them to be happy with the end result, but at the same time, they hired us because of our expertise. And so we have to bring that in as well. And so we love to hear their ideas. We want to implement all those ideas, but sometimes we're there to tell them, hey, maybe we should pull back maybe on this idea and kind of focus more on this one, and this is why. I've always found, like, if you give them the reason behind why you're doing a certain thing, it makes them feel a lot better. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I get it now, I understand. So I think that helps move the design process along fairly easy
Definitely.
for the client. Yeah.
That's good. And lastly, how would you handle it?
I take some of what they're saying, yes, and I take a slightly, it may sound a little old school approach, but I literally try to like wrap myself in the client. If I lived here and this was my particular style, like I really am not a traditional person, but if this was my home and I was a traditional person, style person, how could I best take what they have, like she's saying, some pieces that they really want to incorporate. And I actually love when there's like one piece at least that I can springboard off of versus like grabbing blindly to find out what their version of traditional is. So I do like to springboard off of something that they, really like, if it's, the design aesthetic of it is nice. But, and I really just try to make that my style in that time frame and try to bring it out the best way I can. Because I, like at my own home, I'm constantly moving around things. And so I kind of really envision myself, if this is my house, where would I, what would I be doing if I, budget wasn't an issue and that's really kind of how I approach it. And I love the challenge of having to do projects that are not within my, the aesthetic that I cater to for my own personal style. So, and I recently, 2 days ago, went on an initial consultation, and the homeowner lived in Africa for many years and is a collector, and everything that she has, she wants to incorporate. So I was like, wow, this is going to be a big challenge, but challenge accepted. And so.
Yeah.
That's good. I love that. Now I want to move on to another segment before we close, the horror stories that I always ask people about. So, there's many of those in many areas of business. And I think, in construction and design, there's certainly. So I would like to get your particular horror stories that you guys might have as entertainment value for people and education so people can see things happen, right? And how did you remedy those situations?
I always say, I think I've seen it all until something happens. I'm like, I cannot make this up. There's so many different situations that, and it's never like, one person's fault. It's just something that, there was one situation where the clients wanted this new carpet installed in their media room. Well, when the guys went to install it, the client said, no, that's installed the wrong way. And we come in there and we're like, no, that's installed correctly. And they're like, no, it should be installed the other way. And we're just like, no. And it was the carpet saga. This lasted for a year, back and forth with the installer to where, it was, no, this is the right way. They flew their manager in from the manufacturer of the carpet to tell the client, no, this is the correct way to run the carpet. And the clients would just not let up. I was like afraid, okay, this is gonna get bad. And finally I said, you know what? I made light of the situation. I said, it's gonna be dark in here anyways. It's a media room. We're gonna have all this furniture. Nobody's gonna look at the carpet. It looks great. And finally they were like, you know what, Ashton, you're fine. And it's great. And so after a year, it was good. But the way they thought to see it run a pattern was different than how it was supposed to be installed, So it's just one of those situations where you're like, is this really happening? Like why are we discussing this? But, then when you start getting everybody involved, managers and all this, and it starts getting to be a big debacle. And so our goal at the end of the day is to try to, eliminate the stress. And there's always going to be something that pops up, but, our goal is to, fix it as, non-stress as possible for our clients, to hold their hand through the process. And I always tell my clients, if I'm starting to worry, then you can worry.
Yeah.
If I'm not worried, we're going to be okay. And they're like, okay. So they're always like, because they look at it. So they, if we're acting nervous or whatever.
Feeling the vibe.
Yeah.
Like looking at you like, scared of something?
If they're like, some of my clients I've had for a long time, they know me very well. And they're like, they know like my emotions. And they're like, okay, if Ashton's starting to freak out, we need to start freaking out. Yeah. But that's just, one of many of installations. installation thing that, they saw it differently than what it was supposed to be, But I have a lot more, but I'm sure y'all have some great ones too.
Piggybacking on installation, I inherited a client that was, she was 2 years into remodeling after freeze, the created damages. And so she had her own contractor. And I would say upon first meeting him, I would kind of, in my head was like, what is the quality of his work? I wasn't sure. And long story short, as the project went on, and she called me in to kind of, actually her son called me to help get the project finished. And as the project went on, the quality of his workmanship was not great. And so there was like a particular time she had wallpaper for accent wall, and I asked, do you need me to find an installer? Because we have lots of vendors that we use or trades that we use for that. But he said, oh no, I know how to do that. And and I'm like, everyone is, contractor, construction doesn't necessarily mean, he can hang wallpaper.
And depending on the wallpaper, right? There's some
Right.
really very high-end wallpapers that are different from installing regular wallpaper, right? So they have to really know what they're doing for the longevity of the wallpaper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I bought the wallpaper one day, came back the next day, and I let him know, like, let me know when you get ready to install it, but he didn't. So I came back like a day or two later, and it was installed, and there were edges, white edges, the selvage, where they had markings to line it up, and he literally had installed it, just pasted it on the wall with the white strips up the middle. Did not cut and so I was just horrified. And basically, that was a waste. And so it was just many things like that in the project that were done that I was just constantly holding my breath. Like, what, is it even worth designing when it may not come to fruition?
And then that starts costing money and
it's
time.
costing money.
That's
And
horrible.
the poor homeowner was already 2 years in, and I could see then why she was 2 years in before I ever came in. And so it's just, things that you have to prepare yourself. And we really try to vet the people that we refer to our homeowners so that we don't run into this kind of stuff.
I don't have a specific one, but I have a big red flag. When, we're first meeting with the client during our consultations, if they use the word perfect, that is a big red flag for me, because right there they're already setting, I think, unrealistic expectations, right? Of course, we're going to do our best to give them what they want and great quality. I mean, that's what we stand for. We've been in the business a long time. But the clients that I've met that have said that in the beginning, it's always really hard throughout the design process to make them happy. So, I find that if someone ever says perfect,
Your ears perk up a little bit when they say that, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, oops.
yeah.
So before we close, I want to just talk a little bit about the owner, Pkwy, and give me a little bit of information about her and the firm, how long it's been in business, and just so everybody can know a little bit more in detail about her.
Yeah, Ashton's been there the longest.
I have. I feel like I'm not only her employee, but I feel like I'm also
An
her
OG.
daughter. At the same time, I started there right out of college after graduation, and I've been there for 15 years. So I've been with Pkwy this last half of her business. She started it in her house by herself. She's been in business for over 35 years. Grew this business, and it's so successful. She's done a great job. There's always ups and downs when you have a business and different things that, you go through in life. And no matter what has happened, she's always weathered the storm. And so I have a lot of respect for her on just how she's maintained this successful business for so long. and she's still very involved.
Yes.
Yes, so she still loves to take on projects. She really loves to do kitchen design, and loves doing the plans and all of that, and she still does it very well. It's not, she enjoys it, and I've told her, as long as it's keeping you, not stressed and you're fine with the doing the work, keep doing it as long as you want to do it. And she has, and so I just think it's awesome. We have 10 girls, including her daughter now. That's her manager partner that came in a couple of years ago. That's really kind of helped Peggy. As a boss, you try to wear a lot of hats and do a lot of different things. And so Sarah came in, and it's helped kind of divide that workload. Okay, Mom, you handle this, and this is what I'm handling, and it's done very well. Yeah, for sure.
And that's such a long time in this business, and I'm
very
sure
long
in
time.
30 years she's seen a lot.
Yes, She's worked with, all the builders everywhere around Houston. If she hasn't seen it or doesn't know somebody, I'd be surprised. For sure. But yeah, it's a long time to be in the design business, and to deal with all different types of clients. There's some that you're like, oh my God, I love it. It makes this job worth it. And then there's some that you're like, can I keep doing this? I'm not sure.
They're breaking me down.
Yeah. You got to think, I love this job. I love my career.
Yes.
Keep going.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And clearly she did that, because
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of times where she probably thought that over the years.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And she's a great person to go to just for
Yes.
advice.
She's a great mentor, and she
Yes.
is open to share her experiences and even things you don't know to ask, because she's been there, done that, got the T-shirt. But yeah, she and kind of recently, in the last year or so, maybe two, she says she wants to take on a more mentor kind of advisor role. But we all know she has her hands in everything, and she's not gonna stop designing, and she shouldn't, because she's great at it. But she's really good at sharing her information with everyone.
Thank you so much for joining me. This was so much fun and nice to get to know you guys and get the By Design Interiors ladies' names out there. So I'm, hoping that we can do this again.
Yeah.
You have lots of ladies in your office, so we gotta have to have her set up some more appointments for me to have, so you guys come in and talk. That would be great. So thank you so much for joining me. And until then, stay tuned for the next one. Bye.